Back wheel hops, or learning to hop the back wheel around, are one of those skills that are unreasonably tricky to learn, super useful to have in the real world, and definitely a little bit cool. Welcome to MiniTip Monday. This week's MiniTip Monday is about learning to hop the back wheel of your bike from one part of the ground to another, using the engine and the suspension to do the work for you. It's one of those trialsy, extreme enduro skills that's super useful in the real world for getting your wheels exactly where you need them to be, or for parking your bike that little bit better in the car park. You can do it on big adventure bikes just like you can here on this dirt bike, but it's easier to learn on this dirt bike than it is on those bikes. This week on MiniTip Monday, we're also going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try and teach someone this skill. That person is my dad. My dad is just here out of shot. There he is. He knows a thing or two about riding a motorbike already, but he doesn't know how to do this skill. So today we're going to try and teach an old dog new tricks. Ready?
Wow, old dog.
You ready?
Let's go.
All right. Do you want me to not say that? Was that a bit mean? It might have been a bit mean.
Just stole my line.
While it's entirely possible to do back hops while you're riding the bike, that is a really complicated skill that involves a lot of balance and timing and body movement to do something and make a lot of things happen at once. Honestly, it's a skill that I haven't got dialed to the point where I would stand here and be comfortable teaching it. I'm hit and miss with it. I get it 6 out of 10 times, and the other 4 I just make a load of noise and don't do anything. To learn to do this, I think you need to be on the bike and have the bike stationary. And the first part of this technique is to sit on the bike in a really specific way. So first things first, we're going to jump on. Now, to make this hop work, you need one foot on the ground and the other foot on the foot peg. And the reason you really need this is because you need space between your bum and the seat to allow the rear wheel to come up, and to make the wheel move sideways, we're going to use the leg that's on the foot peg to pull the bike around. That little bit of lean angle from having one foot down and the act of pulling the bike around lets the wheel move sideways. The next part is you need to compress the forks. So we're going to hold the front brake on and use our upper body to push the fork down. So squeeze the front brake, stand up on your foot that's on the ground so that there's that space between you and the seat, and use your upper body to push the fork down. Now you can see when I do this, the back wheel doesn't magically come off the ground on its own. We need to use the clutch and the engine to make the rear wheel lift off the ground. Now the technique for this is to essentially feed the clutch out and turn the throttle at the same time as you compress the fork. They all happen together, and as the fork goes down, the back wheel starts to spin a little bit and it kicks off the ground. And because there's no weight on it, it kicks up. And as it kicks up, it can come round to the foot that's on the ground. If you have no idea what I'm on about when I talk about using the clutch and the throttle to feed out, I made a video recently about this on an adventure bike, but the technique is the same for doing it on a dirt bike. Feeding the clutch out and turning the throttle at the same time to rock the bike is what that video is about. But that technique translates directly into this and a whole bunch of other skills, so it's really worth learning. Now that I've explained that technique, I'm going to show you a couple of times, and then we're going to give my dad a go and see if he can get his head around it. As I said, I'm going to compress the fork, and as I compress the fork, I'm going to feed the clutch out and turn the throttle at the same time. Done. Over to the old man. So as I said, this is not his first time riding a motorbike. He knows a thing or two about it. But before we do anything complicated, the first thing I want you to try and do is to just compress the forks using the front brake, but you need your weight off the seat, so you need your weight on the foot that's on the ground, that's it. And for you, the more space you create between yourself and the back wheel, the easier this is going to be. Okay, and so the next step sounds very simple, but as you do that, you do that clutch and throttle blip together. And it has to be quite aggressive, and generally I engage it at the moment that I start to compress the fork.
Okay.
So that the back wheel is also forcing the fork down further. You get to the point in the fork where it's in the mid-stroke and it hits that hard spot. Make sense?
Yes.
Not bad. Well, it moved.
Yeah, so did the front wheel. It's like all those things though, it's just as soon as I forgot one of those 3 steps, it was difficult, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's the couple of things that were important for me there were making sure I had that clutch like just on the edge of the biting point.
Yeah.
So like we spoke about a lot when we did the rocking video.
Yeah.
So that you're not trying to find the edge of the biting point. And also, a few times I just forgot to create that space under my bum, and then I just had wheel spin, and then the front wheel pushed forwards.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got the 3 things, the compressing the suspension, the clutch biting point, and the good body position, it worked. I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but there's a couple of times when I didn't have my body position right, and actually at the end of it, I lost my balance a bit to the other side.
Okay, yeah. I was worried way too much about how good the shot looked.
And again, like it didn't feel natural and smooth to me then, but I've got the
better. Yeah,
I've got the concept, and I genuinely have never done that before, so it's kind of good to have another little nice new tool in the toolbox.
As I said before, this is not Simon's first time riding. He knows how to ride a motorbike very well. I said right back at the start that this is something that you can definitely do on a GS or other adventure bikes with stiffer suspension like a 790 KTM Adventure. However, there's a couple of caveats. The ground here is very soft and very slippery, and it doesn't work so well on those bikes. Generally, you need a bit harder ground. So tarmac is perfect because you get so much kick off it. So we're going to go and do the next bit of this on some tarmac on a GS, mostly just to prove the point that this is a super useful skill if you're an adventure rider as well. Cool. Back hops are one of those super useful, techie little skills that in the grand scheme of your riding probably don't matter that much, but when you start to push yourself to more technical places, it's really useful. Getting your back wheel exactly where you want it makes your technical, extreme enduro style riding a lot easier, allows you to make sure that you're going to get up things because you've got good drive. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and you learned something and kind of can improve your off-road riding skills a little bit. You may have noticed in this video that my Husky has a pretty unique graphics kit going on. That's something that we sell in our online shop. Now when this video goes live, it'll only be available for Husky models, the 701 and the enduro bikes, but over time we're going to adapt it and release it for other models of bikes as well, KTM 790s and so on. If you want to see that, you can find the link in the description below. On top of that, MiniTip Monday is a series that we run in series, and it primarily comes out on our Patreon page. You want to see more, learn more, and get involved in learning and getting feedback on some great tips for your riding, then maybe have a look at that as well. And otherwise, remember, life's better when you're riding.
Awesome dismount.